Chapter 306 of My Hero Academia is titled The Final Act Begins, and there's not a better title for what the series feels like right now. Not only do we get big changes from what Deku's doing right now, but also a changing of consolidating all the people in one places, talking and getting updates and kind of the emotions that heroes are feeling, while also getting a quick shot of Dabi and his overall emotion on the aspect. This is going to be possibly the final arc of My Hero Academia about to begin. We had the war arc go on for 53 chapters now, and even on some of the fan sites, people don't know where to put this chapter because they're not sure if the final act begins, considers that it's actually going to be one of the final arcs, which it feels like it's setting up to be, or if they are changing the approach or maybe the final arc of the quirk, one for all and all for one, considering the showdown of the users, which we kind of get teased in a beautiful color animation to start chapter 306. I want to talk about so much more. I just want to get a little preamble to all this. But my name is Andrew Nimzagren, and today I am going to talk about everything that happened in chapter 306 of My Hero Academia, as well as break down what this means for the future and potentially ending of My Hero Academia. It starts with All Might continuing to sense that Midoriya is having some kind of conversation with the One for All successors when he's approached by Hawks and Best Genius from outside of him. He's saying that Hawks comes in saying that he wants to talk to All Might about One for All and what it means. And that throughout the fight, he heard Endeavor and other professional heroes that have now retired all made mentions that Shigaraki was going after Midoriya and trying to understand why. All Might, with a little bit of hesitation, does end up telling Hawks and Best Genius to come with them, that he is going to tell them everything about One for All. Elsewhere, Nezu is talking to someone from the government, saying that of course this is a request from the government, so we are going to continue and work alongside them. A few days later, we do see Hawks, Endeavor, and Best Genius putting together the press conference that we've been waiting so long to see. Endeavor reveals the full truth behind everything that's happening with Dabi, pretty much saying, yep, everything Dabi said is true, and I'm sorry. And then we also go on with a lot of the reporters saying, well, of course, what they are saying about Hawks isn't real either in Best Genius Assassination. And Best Genius says, well, first, the Best Genius Assassination was simply just to get me into the ranks of the League of Villains, and that it was all just a scheme, and that he did end up killing a villain that was fleeing, but only because he felt that there was no way to truly redeem Twice, but also that if Twice was left to live, there would only been more mass destruction and death than what already is. We have reporters continuing to push him in that with Machio's rampage, that one reporter specifically, her mother was gravely wounded during all this, and that she didn't feel like they are showing enough emotion or letting enough out, that so many people lost their houses, their livelihoods, and so much more, and that they should be doing more. And Endeavor kind of puts out this big statement, like, if we truly showed everything that we're feeling, would that make up for it? And the reporter starts going off and yelling and saying, no, of course not. We want you to put it at ease. How could you? And then kind of at that point, how could I, Endeavor, redeem myself more than taking care of all the villains? And kind of setting up that and seeming to put at least that reporter and kind of the overall reporter crew as a whole kind of at a different level and calming down a little bit, saying that they are very serious. And Best Genius kind of takes over there, saying that with the hero ranks thinning even more, that we need to try to consolidate, and it's not really possible for heroes to take care of everyone in Japan right now. There's just too spread out and not enough heroes. So they're going to start using places such as UA, government buildings, and other hero programs to start actually storing people pretty much in these shelters so that heroes can protect only those and then deal with the villains outside of that so that they are better able to protect while also fight back up against the overwhelming odds of the villains right now. Against people go crazy about that again, getting very worked up, but we don't exactly see what the ending of that's going to be. But we do kind of see that Endeavor say that everyone, do not direct your people at these people that are trying to save your life. Direct all of your feelings and worries and hatreds towards me, and then ends with the just watch me that we saw when he became the #1 hero in the Japanese top hero rankings. We saw him say the same exact thing there, which was a very cool throwback, but not the only cool throwback in this chapter. We'll talk about that in just a second. But however, with all that going on, we do go back to the UA and see Class 1A all running around saying that they caught customized letters from Midoriya, pretty much explaining his quirk, his relationship to All Might, that Shigaraki's after them, and all that. And we do see Ochako saying that dummy and just kind of very upset, obviously, with everyone kind of freaking out and talking about it in the background. And then we do get to see Deku in a very Batman like stance up on top of a gargoyle at a skyscraper, looking over and saying something that he said in the very first ever chapter of My Hero Academia, a giant villain. And we get the note that he has now left My Hero Academia. Well, he left Academia, and he's now pretty much a rogue anti-hero hero. Not exactly sure what it is, but a very cool throwback. And what a shift for a show literally called My Hero Academia for the main character to leave the school officially. I mean, I've been saying for a while now that they're never returning back to 2A. I mean, there's never going to be a second year of the school or the season. Like, there's no returning back to what things are. I mean, anyone that is fighting in this war right now is going to become a professional here afterwards. Kind of the schooling and going through all that. I don't know how necessary it is anymore with society. Hero society going to be completely reworked after this. But more importantly, just some of the throwbacks in this chapter were by far my favorite. Obviously, first getting the just watch me moment from Endeavor. The Batman stance was weird, but a giant villain with Deku in this big like garb, like very much kind of gives even Stain vibes a little bit, just very battered clothing with a huge backpack. And it is with after a short time jump because this was in April and the war arc ended, I believe, a couple of months ago. So there was a small time jump in here when we see Deku kind of out in the wilderness already. But I think the most important thing to really take away from here is now that while not everyone understands what All for One is, and One for All is, but a lot more people do. I'm assuming almost all the pro heroes do understand what it means at this point, at least anyone that's still fighting very closely alongside Endeavor and Hawks and all that. Now Class 1A knows as well. And Deku is gone. And that is going to be something that's going to be super interesting to follow, especially after Time Jump. I'm assuming this is probably due to a couple of reasons. One, I don't think anyone really wants to read through like all the heroes watching over the people as they're being evacuated to these shelters. I think it's much better to do a time jump and then get an idea of where everyone is right now, of if people are unhappy in the shelters now, if the shelters are working, if a lot of people said like, no, I'm going to stay out in the wilderness and just kind of see if I can make it by myself. And maybe that's who Deku is right now, and that's why he's going after this giant villain to either take him down or to protect the people that are still out there. There's a lot unknown in the world right now, which makes me so excited about this, but it also kind of worries me that the title is called The Final Act, or the start of the final act, and I really do start to get I guess the final act begins. I apologize, but it really does feel like we're getting on one of the last few arcs of My Hero Academia. I mean, we have Hero Society at least understanding about what All for One and the One for All relationship is, and that pretty much setting up the very clear Deku versus Shigaraki fight that we've been waiting so long to see. And I think this gives Deku a good chance to really level up almost in the way that we know Shigaraki is currently resting, going from that 75% state to the 100% state. So Deku being out there, now understanding what all of the quirks he has from each of the predecessors is, but also being able to kind of go out and fully fight without having to worry about his other classmates or other heroes and just going up and using his powers at the maximum. I think it's going to be a really cool jump, and I think when we see Deku probably fighting this next chapter, as we're looking on the giant villain, I think very quickly we'll have a jump into him. We're going to see improvement. I think we're going to instantly see Deku have pretty much full control of Black Whip and possibly even a couple of other quirks already now. So I think it's going to be a very cool jump to see where Deku wins from the end of the Liberation War arc to where he is now in just a couple of months. I think it's going to be a huge change. We also do get to see two things that I didn't really mention in the recap. I mentioned at the beginning of the episode that one, we do see Dabi kind of during the press conference happening, obviously watching all of it, saying, I guess I didn't do enough. So his showdown and his intent to destroy or kill Endeavor is still very much there, continuing to set up that fight between Shoto and Endeavor, especially against Dabi, but potentially the inclusion of Hawks and Best Genius, who did say that they'd help alongside them. And also, we do get an update on where a couple of heroes are. We see Mirko putting on some kind of tourniquet after losing a couple of her limbs. We see Aizawa with an eye patch on there. We see the first time ever seeing Kami Wood's hair. It just looks like a bunch of tree leaves, which is really cool. And then we also do get to see Best Genius bottom half of his face for the first time. It wasn't covered by the jeans. And he has like an incredibly long neck. I think we already knew that, but it was just kind of a weird to kind of see exactly what he looked like here. But It is such a good setup chapter for a new arc. I have no idea what this arc's going to call. It could just be called the final arc or something such as that, but I think we are going to get into the conclusion a lot quicker than we think. I think that couple of month jump that we had before I saw Deku, Shigaraki is going to be waking up soon, which is why I think Deku is going to have more control of All for One already. And I think we are going to have a confrontation with kind of the current heroes and understanding if Deku's truly a hero still or an anti-hero, not fully understanding where he is. I mean, he'll never go full anti-hero because he's not going to kill anyone ever. So I struggle to believe him ever going down the path of staying almost, but it does open up a chance of maybe working with some other vigilantes that are out and about, and or maybe having them come in. Goichi from the Vigilante series would be one of them I'd love to see, but it opens up a lot of different avenues. But I don't think it's any coincidence that they titled this The Final Act Begins, and that I do think after Horikoshi made a comment in 2020 that the series are going to be ending sooner than fans want. I think we have less than a year left in My Hero Academia before we receive the final chapter. It could come even much quicker than that, which is incredibly exciting, but so incredibly sad at the same time. But that is all I have today. Thank you so much for listening to me ramble on for 11 minutes about that. Season 5 is right around the corner for the anime, so if you do have any interest in that, make sure to check out our videos on the YouTube channel. And we also do a weekly My Hero Academia podcast, where recently we've been doing character deep dives, and these last 2 weeks we've done a Season 4 recap and then a Season 5 primer. But as Season 5 starts next Saturday, the 27th, we are going to start doing episode recaps as well on the podcast and on YouTube. So make sure to check that out, subscribe to the channel, and then leave your comments down below on what do you think about Chapter 306, if you truly believe this is the last arc, or if it was some kind of tease or misdirection, or where you think this series is going to go, because it is up in the air, but that does not mean I am not incredibly excited for every chapter, as always. So I'll see you back here for chapter 307, and have a great day.